Since before the days of Columbus, people have navigated the earth, reading the sun, moon, and stars to find their way to and back to where they want to go. They've used their voyages to create maps so that others could follow in their footsteps. Today, things are simpler. Smartphones and GPS help us find what we're looking for, but some things like maps never go out of style. This week on MCrider, let's talk about navigation. Hey, welcome to MCrider. My name's Kevin. I'm the host of MCrider, where I release a weekly video to help make you a better rider. We focus on skills or road strategy to help improve your riding and to help make you safer on two wheels. Continuing our touring series this week, and we'll talk about navigation this week on MCrider. If you haven't done so and you're interested in becoming a supporter on Patreon, you'll get access to our forums and the field guide, which is a part of the forums, where we provide exercises and skills that you can practice on any open parking lot. Go to mcrider.com/support to learn more about supporting MCrider and getting access to the forums and the field guide. So it seems to me that there are three types of riders who plan a motorcycle trip. There's the first rider who plans on going from point A to point B, and they know every stop in between. They know where they're going to fill up with gas, they know where they're going to stop for lunch, and they know where they plan on sleeping for the night. The second kind of rider is going from point A to point B, and then the adventure happens somewhere in between those 2 points. And that's kind of how I like to ride. I know at the end of a day that I plan on being, about 350 miles closer to my destination, but the adventure kind of happens in between there. If I see a road that interests me, or if there's sights or things that I want to see along the way, I'll plan those out as I go. Third type of rider is going to go from point A to who knows where. That's where the adventure begins. And they kind of just ride in a general direction, and I've done those types of rides myself. But if I'm going on a trip, it's generally that type 2 rider, where the adventure happens between the starting and the ending point. So let's look at some tools this week, some things that you can use and that I use to navigate both the city and whenever I go on a longer trip. So one of the first things we'll talk about are cell phones. And smartphones or cell phones have come a long way since I first started riding. And in fact, it's become kind of a tool that I wouldn't want to ride without, especially around here in the city. And depending on what type of phone you got, whether it's an Apple iPhone or an Android phone, you may be using Apple Maps or Google Maps to help navigate in the city. Now, one of the things that doesn't come standard on it is Waze, and this is Waze. I'm not sure how well you guys can see that. That's W-A-Z-E. Waze is an app that I've really come to appreciate, and the thing that I like about Waze is I can start it up, and even if I don't enter a destination in, it's going to give me alerts along the way, and it's pretty accurate to let you know if there's an obstacle in the road or a car parked over on the side of the road or if traffic's slowing down ahead of you. All those things are really good to know and to get a heads up as you're riding down the road. Give you things like, speed camera alerts, or if there's a lot of cars pulled over ahead, it'll let you know of speed traps and things like that as well. But it's just nice to know that the app is looking out for you some, and it may see something before you actually do on the road. So I get that audio through the phone into my helmet and the Bluetooth in my helmet. So it's good to have that knowledge ahead of time. The negative to me about cell phones and using any of the apps that I mentioned before is a lot of times you're going to lose your navigation when you get out of cell phone coverage. So I rode through Northeast Arkansas a few years ago, and I lost cell phone coverage in the Ozarks. And my phone was useless to me at that time as a navigation tool. So that kind of brings me to my second tool that I use, when I get outside of the city limits, and that's using a Garmin GPS. Now, what I really like about having a Garmin whenever I leave town for a longer trip is it's going to maintain your coverage. You're still going to have GPS signal when you get outside of the city limits or out in a really remote area. But the thing that I like most about the Garmin's is they have some routing options. If I'm going from point A to point B and I don't exactly know where I want to go in between here and there, you can set your routing up to take the most curvy road or the roads with the most elevation. And that's a really cool feature. So if you're just wanting to go out and get lost, which I do that occasionally, I'll just head outside of the city, go for a ride, and don't have any particular place I want to go. I just go out and get lost. Then I can set the Garmin up to navigate back to the house, and I can tell it, hey, take me on the most curvy roads between here and getting back home. And a lot of times I'll find a road that I had no idea existed. So that's kind of a fun feature to be able to do that and let the Garmin help find cool roads to ride on or roads with better elevation that you may not have been aware of. Another nice thing about the Garmin's, if you buy the motorcycle specific, it's just the motorcycle specific to have that feature to find the curvy roads for you. And some other things that you'll get with it is it's shock and water resistant, so waterproof, so you don't have to worry about putting it up if a rainstorm comes. And it's made for kind of the abuse that it's going to receive riding on a motorcycle. So I've got two of these now. I've got one on the Road King, and I've got one that I keep on my Tenere. And the one on my Tenere I really like because it's got two valve stem covers that I have on each valve stem. And right here on the screen, it shows the tire pressure in each one of my tires, and will give you a warning if the tire pressure gets low. Batteries don't last real long. I get about 8 months out of a set of batteries before I have to change them in the valve stem covers, so they don't last real long, but I get about 8 months out of them. But it's nice to be able to get on the bike, start it up, and I know what my tire pressure is, and I found that it's pretty accurate, those valve stems, in comparison to a very accurate tire pressure gauge. But in discovering how I like to travel, going from point A to point B and then finding interesting places in between, there's one thing that when I'm planning a trip I've found has become indispensable, and that is Butler Maps. I've been a customer of Butler Maps for a good while. When I did my Colorado trip years ago, that's the first thing I did was I went and found a Butler map that would help me find some roads between here and there that I wanted to ride. And what makes Butler Maps really unique is they don't just get online and search for interesting roads between here and there. They send out a team. They send out some motorcyclists who will actually ride the state, and they'll log thousands of miles through a state looking for interesting roads. So when they mark a road on this that is a good motorcycle road, you can rest assured that someone has ridden that and they actually have firsthand experience in riding that road. And I've really come to trust when they tell you that a road is worth, going out of your way to travel on a motorcycle, that it really is once you find that road and once you ride it for yourself. And they rate G1, G2, and G3 is the way that they rate a road. And G1 roads are those roads you don't want to miss. And they're labeled as G1s and they're color-coded in the maps. Same with the G2 and G3, so that you can find the best places to ride or stop along your way. So I thought I'd just lay one of these maps out and we would take a tour of it. And I would show you how I would use the map if I was traveling through a particular state. And let's say I'm plan on traveling 350 to 400 miles in that day, how I could find good roads to get me between where I'm at and where I want to be at the end of the day. So one of the things that I really like about Butler Maps is they've got so many varieties of different maps to help you find the good roads. I've got a few of them from that box that I showed you earlier. This is their historic Route 66. Got an eastern segment and a western segment to help you find the best roads, or to find the Route 66 roads if you wanted to do that ride. I know a lot of people are interested in that. Here's my Utah map, Colorado. I've got an earlier edition of this Colorado map as well that I used for my trip a few years ago, and their New Mexico segment. So we'll take a look at New Mexico because I'll be riding through here whenever I go to California, and we'll look for some of these G1 roads, which are their highest rated roads in New Mexico. So one really nice thing about these maps is they're waterproof and tear resistant, so you don't have to worry about it getting wet out on the road. And I'm not sure what this material is, but you'd have to really work hard to put a tear in it. So they're very durable maps, and they're going to last for several trips. So let's open this map up and we'll take a look at how these things work. So remember, they rate these good, better, best, the roads, and they color code it on the map so that you can find the best roads. These yellow segments that you see here, you're always going to see a box around those, which indicates it's one of their gold roads. And like this road right here around Roswell, New Mexico, there's a gold road there, and it's got a 16 next to it. So then if you look at 16 on the map, it gives you some information about the road. So it tells you it's Bottomless Lake State Park Road, New Mexico 409, and then it gives you some information, tells you what the elevation changes are through that map. So if I was riding, let's say I was starting out in New Mexico and continuing to go to the east, or to the west rather, I would look between Roswell and here, and I would find some roads that I might be interested in hitting. So if I wanted to, hit this number 14 here, we can flip our map over, and you can find 14 on the back of the map, and that's the Sky Apache Highway, and it gives you information about that road. It says, for one of the most thrilling rides in New Mexico, you're going to set off from Alto and head west, and it gives you information about the ride and, again, your elevation map. Really good to be able to plan your trip, because this is the way I like to look at a segment of roads whenever I'm planning my trip, to just have it, be able to spread it out and know that I'm starting here and I want to end up, in this area for the night, and to be able to find good roads between here and there. It's really invaluable because you know that these roads have actually been ridden. It's not just sourced from some social networking site, that these are roads that experienced riders have actually ridden, and they are going to help you find the best roads in that area to ride. One of the things I really like, even on these road intended maps or road traveler maps, is they now include these dual sport adventure roads, and it's going to list some roads out that are, they're not single track roads, but they're going to be, dirt roads or difficult dirt roads or gravel roads. They can be traveled on a large dual sport motorcycle. So that's really cool if you're into, light adventure riding. It's going to give you some ways to find nice dirt roads or gravel roads to add to your adventure as well. So in addition to the maps that I've shown you already, if you buy their complete kit, they've got these DVDs, and I've watched a couple of these. These Backcountry Discovery Route are really good adventure DVDs for those of you who are into adventure riding, and they're going to help give you an idea of what the roads look like and the type of adventures that you can have by using the Butler maps. And then here is an example of just all the different maps they've got for different parts of the country. And no matter where you're going, the Texas Hill Country, So I've been down to the Texas Hill Country. In fact, I've got some pictures of my Valkyrie sitting, no, what was I on? My FJR sitting right in front of the Lukenbach post office. So I've been there. I can vouch for that area. There's the Ozarks, which will probably be not too far in my distant future. Northern California, Southern California, so I'll want these when I go on my trip. There's Alaska. Just maps for all over the U.S. is really going to help you plan your ride and help you find the best roads available. So the next time you go out on a trip, go to Butler Maps. I'll have a link to them in the description so that you can find more maps. If you go to butlermaps.com, you can purchase these and have them sent to you. Also, they've got an app now, rever.co. If you go to rever.co, that's their online site where you can do some online route planning, and they've got an app that you can download. And for a subscription-based fee, you can get access to these maps and use it while you're out on your motorcycle. Now, I think having, a printed map to me is a lot more valuable than trying to locate something on a cell phone. So I like these in addition to possibly that app, but they're just really great to plan your route, to find the good roads, and to get where you want to go, and to see those G1 roads along the way in order to make the best of your trip. So I know many of you guys are much more detailed in your route planning than I was here, and I'd love to learn from you and maybe get some ideas on how you do this. We'll be having a discussion about this on the forums. You can go to MCrider.com/support to learn how to get access to the forums, or if you're already a patron, go to MCrider.com/forums and you can sign in using your Patreon username and password. Or leave a comment below. I'd love to read the comments and learn how you guys navigate the world on a motorcycle. So until next week, this is Kevin with MCrider, and we'll see you on the road. MCrider is made possible by our friends on Patreon. To learn how to support MCrider, get access to the field guide and the forums, go to MCrider.com/support.